Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating physiological mystery: why humans cry. I mean, we all do it, right? But the hard science behind how crying actually regulates our stress and mood is absolutely mind-blowing. We're often conditioned to think of crying as just a symptom of sadness, or worse, some sort of weakness that we need to suppress and hide away. But what if I told you it's actually a highly evolved, brilliant physiological hack? Seriously, what if crying is a built-in biological safety valve specifically designed to regulate your brain and body?
Here is our roadmap for this explainer. First, not all tears are equal. 2, the chemistry of emotional tears. 3, the parasympathetic reset button. 4, the hidden chemical signal. And 5, the social power of crying.
Okay, let's start with section 1, not all tears are equal. We're going to separate emotional tears from the rest. So humans actually produce 3 entirely distinct types of tears. First, you have basal tears. Your tear ducts are constantly secreting these. They're this protein-rich liquid that keeps your eyes moist every time you blink, and they contain an enzyme powerful enough to fight off harsh bacteria. Pretty cool, right? Second, we have reflex tears. That's your body's flush system, triggered by things like wind, smoke, or chopping onions. But our main focus today is the third type, emotional tears. We shed these in response to strong feelings, and their chemical makeup is completely different, packed with uniquely high levels of stress hormones. Which brings us to section 2, the chemistry of emotional tears. What exactly are we crying out? Well, it turns out it is so much more than just salty water. Emotional tears are packed with a highly specific cocktail of biochemicals. When we shed them, we're actively excreting stress hormones like ACTH and prolactin right out of our bodies. We also cry out high concentrations of minerals. Amazingly, emotional tears can contain up to 30 times more manganese than your blood serum. That's just wild to think about. But perhaps the most incredible ingredient on this list is leucine and kephalin. Let's break down exactly what that is. Leucine and kephalin is an endogenous opioid peptide. Okay, science jargon aside, that simply means it's a potent, natural painkiller and mood regulator produced by your own body. So when you cry, you are literally releasing a feel-good endorphin that actively works to soothe physical and emotional pain from the inside out. And this beautifully captures the core of how tears regulate our stress. While researchers are still debating the exact volume of toxins removed, the overarching theory is incredibly compelling. Crying acts as a genuine biological detox. By expelling these specific chemicals, your body literally flushes stress molecules and the waste products of a highly agitated nervous system right out of your system, physically easing your emotional burden. Now let's jump to section 3, the parasympathetic reset button. This is the physiology of relief. A crying episode actually has a distinct 2-part timeline. Step 1 is sympathetic arousal. This is your classic fight or flight mode. When a deep cry begins, you sob, you take rapid, shallow breaths, maybe you tremble a bit, and your vocal cords actually constrict, giving you that very familiar lump in the throat feeling. But then, step 2 kicks in, the parasympathetic break. Once the peak of that intense emotion passes, your rest and digest mode activates. It's like your body flips a switch. Your heart rate starts to slow down, your breathing deepens, and your muscles relax. Crying physically shifts your body out of emergency mode and right into repair mode. And scientists can actually track this soothing effect using something called respiratory sinus arrhythmia, or RSA. You can think of RSA as a measurable tracker for your vagus nerve. It shows how well your body recovers from stress. When healthy individuals have a good cry, researchers observe a robust increase in RSA. So this proves that a good cry isn't just some abstract emotional release, it's a physical tool your body uses to stabilize your cardiovascular system and restore your baseline mood. Now, there is a very important caveat we need to touch on. The relief of crying entirely relies on that self-soothing feedback loop we just talked about. If someone is experiencing frequent, uncontrollable crying without a clear trigger and they feel absolutely no relief afterward, it usually means that parasympathetic reset button is compromised. In those cases, it's a crucial sign of potential clinical depression and definitely a signal to seek support from a healthcare professional. All right, moving on to section 4, the hidden chemical signal. We're going to see how tears magically alter the behavior of others. To get this, we kind of have to look at animal biology first. Scientists have known for a while that rodent tears contain chemical signals. Like female mice emit these specific invisible signals in their tears that completely abolish intermale aggression. So the big question researchers asked was, do odorless human tears do the exact same thing?
To figure this out, a groundbreaking study published in PLOS Biology put it to the test. They had male participants sniff either emotional tears collected from female donors or just a trickled saline control. Now, the tears were completely odorless. After sniffing the liquid, which, by the way, researchers found actually lowered the men's testosterone levels, the men played a monetary game called the point subtraction aggression paradigm. In this game, an opponent unfairly provokes them, and the men have the chance to retaliate at no personal gain. It's basically a pure measure of aggressive revenge. Are you ready for the results? Because they are jaw-dropping. After sniffing the odorless, emotional tears, male aggressive retaliation dropped by a massive 43.7%. No way, right?
When researchers measured the aggression-provocation ratio, the data was totally clear. When the guys sniffed the saline control, their aggression ratio was at 1.67. But after sniffing the emotional tears, it plummeted all the way down to 0.94. This proves without a doubt that this invisible, odorless chemical signal significantly suppresses aggressive behavior. So how in the world is this happening if they can't even smell it? Well, lab testing showed that emotional tears actually activate 4 out of 62 specific human olfactory receptors in our noses. And when these men were placed inside an MRI scanner, the brain scans showed that sniffing tears actually increased the connectivity between the parts of the brain responsible for smell and the networks that control aggression, all while turning down the overall activity in those aggressive networks. The tears literally hacked the aggressor's brain structure. The researchers concluded that tears act as this mammalian-wide chemical blanket that naturally protects the person crying against aggression. And that takes us to our final segment, Section 5, the social power of crying and the evolutionary advantage of visual tears.
Let's zoom out for a second. Evolutionary biologists suggest that human crying actually evolved to replace loud distress calls. Think about it. A silent tear rolling down a cheek kept early humans safe by signaling distress to their tribe without making a ton of noise that would attract dangerous predators. Today, it serves as an incredibly powerful nonverbal cue. Eye-tracking studies show that if you just add tears to an image of a sad face, it drastically reduces ambiguity. It instantly shifts the observer's perception to vulnerability and sincerity. It softens any perceived aggression, and most importantly, it pulls empathy, compassion, and vital social support out of the people around us.
But there's a huge catch here. The environment matters. The psychological relief you get from crying is heavily contingent on a supportive social setting. If you cry in a safe space where you get comforted, your mood is going to bounce back. But if you suppress your tears, or if you cry in a really hostile environment, like maybe a rigid workplace where you feel judged, it can actually make you feel way worse instead of better. So, what does this all mean for us? We've seen today that crying is so much more than just feeling sad. It detoxifies stress hormones, resets our cardiovascular system to boost our mood, completely halts aggression in others, and rallies the social support we need. It's honestly an evolutionary superpower. So the next time you feel those tears welling up, will you fight them? Or will you let your body's brilliant biological safety valve do exactly what it was designed to do? Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer, and I really hope this changes how you view your next good cry.